Hey everybody, this is Peter with EUP Photography, and today we're going to go over the very bare bones basics of Lightroom. We're actually going to break this up in several different videos to make it a little bit shorter for you guys and a little easier to manage for your chunk of time to watch this. So let's jump right in. The first thing we're going to want to do is learn how to import our images into a catalog with Lightroom. So we're going to come over here to this nice little import button. Now you're going to want to make sure you have an external drive or your CF or flash card or SD card plugged into the computer, so that way you're able to actually import your images into Lightroom's catalog. Now real quick, we'll look at the source tab here. You can add sources that you maybe don't have listed here, like network volumes. But by default, it's going to pick off of my SD card because it knows that that's the one I use all the time. If you want to use an external hard drive that's plugged in, you can select that as well, just by coming down here to Files and choosing which one you want to use. So you can navigate through and find everything that you want to. It's pretty simple, pretty self-explanatory there. So you just find the files and where your images are. And you have a couple different options up here. You have copy as DNG, copy, move, and add. So these are different ways to handle your files, bringing them into Lightroom's catalog. Copy as DNG is the first one. This one basically is going to take all of your raw images and convert them into a DNG format, which is Adobe's open source format to allow multiple different editors outside of their own to use the editing power that's available. Whereas like Canon, Nikon, and Pentax, they have proprietary formats for their raw images. So DNG is open source. Anybody can use it. Anybody can reverse engineer it and be able to break it down to edit properly. So Lightroom does not have an issue though handling PEF, CR2, and NEF files. So you can shoot in your native format. It's perfectly fine. You have the copy here, which is basically going to copy the images that you are selecting into a new folder on your computer and then cataloging them in Lightroom's catalog. You have your move tool so that you can move files between folders on your computer, so that way Lightroom knows where those images have gone, and I'll show you exactly what that looks like when they disappear here in just a second. And then you have add. So if you find it faster to bring your images into your computer right off the bat instead of trying to import them through Lightroom, you can actually come in after the fact, hit add, select the folder that you want as the source, and add those images into Lightroom's catalog instead of actually moving them over or copying them over from your SD card at the same time as it's adding to the catalog. So add is much faster than copy, but you're killing two birds with one stone with copy because you are exporting them off of your card or your drive and then putting them in the folder that you want and adding them to the catalog all at the same time. So it just kind of kills two birds with one stone and just kind of makes your workflow a little bit simpler. Now, in this instance here, I've already got all these images imported, so I'm not going to actually import them, but I'll show you a neat way that you can actually unselect all of these, or any images that you already may have had on your SD card or CF card that are duplicates and you don't want to import them, but you can't remember what you have and what you don't have. Lightroom can handle that for you. So up here we are working on the local disk, so we're going to open up the file handling tab by clicking this little arrow here. So our build previews, we're just basically using the minimal right now. We do have the build smart previews checked. The smart previews basically allow you to create a file that you're allowed to still edit when your images aren't still connected to the computer. For instance, if you're storing all of your images on an external hard drive, you can actually have your build smart previews checked, build those smart previews, and you'll actually be able to edit the image without the hard drive plugged into the computer, and next time you plug it in, it'll sync everything back up. So this button right here is the one I was talking about. Don't import suspected duplicates. If you click on that, all of those images are going to disappear because they're already in my Lightroom catalog. But if you're like me, if you don't go out and shoot thousands of photos at a time, you're just maybe shooting 50, 60 at a time, and you've got a 64 gig card like I do, it takes me months to fill this card up. I don't always sit and wipe my drive or my card if I know that I'm not going to be going out and shooting a ton. So you may forget what you've imported. You may not want to dig through the 4,000 or 5,000 files you have on there. Click this little box here. It'll take care of that for you. You can also make a second copy for archiving purposes, so you can make it up to like a network storage drive or a secondary backup drive, something like that. So that way you have a second copy just in case something goes wrong with your main drive. And then you can also add your images to a collection. So by default you have quick collections. You can create more over here if you need to. So you can do all kinds of stuff, you know, if you have 5-star, 4-star rated, you know, different stuff like that. We'll cover that in subsequent videos coming up, so that way you guys understand how we can better organize our images and quickly cycle between the ones that we want to use and the ones that are just kind of meh. Alright, so we're going to hit this little arrow and we're going to go to the file renaming. So you can rename files on import instead of having to do it after the fact. So you can do a template here and you can actually edit some of these and create your own custom ones. But these are pretty self-explanatory. You have like date and file name, so it'll do the date of the image plus the file name. You can do a custom name where you name each individual image. You can do a custom name sequence, so it'll be like Bob and Diane's wedding 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it'll just keep saying, you know, Bob and Diane and then the number afterwards. So I shouldn't really have to explain this. They're all pretty self-explanatory there. Alright, so the apply during import is probably one of the more important tabs here. This is where you can set your metadata and your develop settings if you wanted to use some presets off the bat. In this case, I'm not going to because I never do. But your metadata is, like I said, one of the most important ones here. It allows you to set the information for your images. Now I'm going to edit presets so I can show you what everything looks like blank and then show you what it looks like for mine. So you have your basic info tab here. You can do copy name, rating, labels, captions. You have your camera info, your IPTC content. The big one here that you're going to want to use is the IPTC copyright. You can set your copyright information. Leave any of these blank to leave them clear or uncheck them. That's all you got to do. If there's some in here that you don't want to use, for instance, in the IPTC creator, maybe you're not comfortable putting your email, your phone, things of that nature in there, you can leave those blank and fill out the rest and it'll be perfectly fine. So IPTC creator, IPTC copyright, the two big ones that I use in here. Then you've got image, status, extension, administrative, and a whole bunch of other ones that nobody ever looks at or uses or cares about. You do have video if you do any kind of professional video and you want to list, you know, director of photography, artist, things like that. And then the last one here is keywords. Now these keywords are going to be keywords that you use on all of your imports and all of your images. So things like your business name, your name. If people are stupid enough to steal your image and not, you know, strip out the metadata and upload it to Google, Google catalogs all this. You can quickly do a keyword search and try to find all your images that have been stolen. So just to show you real quick what mine looks like, I've got like EUP photography, EUP photo, Peter Steele. Up here, I've got my information in here as far as my address, my business name, my email, business phone number. I've got my copyright information as well. So all you got to do is click done. It'll save that for you, and now you can come in here anytime you want and select your metadata, and it'll import those every single time. Now the keywords tab here is to specifically keyword the images you're importing. So for instance, if you went to the zoo with your family, or you had a wedding, or you had senior portraits, you can come in here and set your keywords just for those images that you're importing this one time and this one time only. So it's a little bit easier to search for them later on in the future, especially if you're like me. I've got 18,000 some odd photos just in this catalog alone and another 30,000 on my external drive. So trying to dig through that many images can be an absolute nightmare, but I can go through and do a filter search, and I'll show you guys that another time. Okay, destination is the last big one here. So this is how you can import and copy your images over into a specific folder wherever you want on your computer. You just select the folder you want it to go to. You can create subfolders. So like I use pictures as my main folder. I create a subfolder and name it. If it doesn't exist, Lightroom will create it for you. So you don't have to worry about going through and creating that folder ahead of time. You can choose the different destinations. So if you have an external hard drive plugged in, you can choose that instead. So it's really not that big of a deal, but it will support anything that is storage. So you can store those photos anywhere you want to. Thumb drive even, doesn't matter. So you can organize into one folder or by date. Now the reason why you would do by date, say you're like me and you leave your images on your card for a while, and maybe you didn't import your images for like a month, but you went out and shot a couple times. You can break your images down by date. So like maybe do a folder or subfolder called November, and then you come in here and select by date, and then it'll allow you to choose the date format that you want, and it'll break those photos down into folders based on the date that they were taken. I like to just do one folder because I don't let my pictures sit on a card without being imported anyways for that long. I'll let them sit after I import them until it gets a little more full, but that's just because I don't like writing over my card for 157 photos, because each time you do it, it reduces the life of your SD card. So anyways, the other options you have your grid view and your loop view here. Loop view is basically going to bring up full screen. Grid view is going to show you everything down here. You can check and uncheck all. You can sort your images. So by capture time, check state, file name, media type. So let's say, for instance, you're one of those photographers that likes to shoot JPEG and RAW at the same time. So you can maybe look at the JPEG, get a quick, edit out on Facebook really fast on Lightroom Mobile, just so that somebody can see it and say, oh yeah, I really like that picture, let's work on that. And then you also have the RAW file to work on. So you can sort by media type and import only your RAW files into Lightroom's catalog, instead of using the RAW and JPEG and then having to manually select which ones are what. So you can do that. It's just a nice way to break that down. And then of course you got your thumbnail sizer down here. So really that's all there is to it. When you're ready to import, you just hit import. It'll import your photos into the catalog. It'll create the smart previews once it's moved or copied those images over into the folders that you've selected. And that's it. Once we get that done and everything's good and squared away, we can go into the library module and start playing around in there. And then we can move forward into the develop module. So thank you guys for watching so much. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section below. I welcome any feedback so that I can help make these a little more informational or a little more bearable for you guys to watch. But again, I really appreciate you guys watching, and I will talk to you next time.